Texas floods. Climate change or God's retribution?
Al Sharpton got in trouble for asking that question.
Yes, he did.
They piled on him.
He did.
You know, there are people out there, they just live to pile on Al Sharpton. I just think that's wrong. That's just wrong. I have a soft spot for Reverend Sharpton. He was the first person who ever stood on a presidential debate stage and said that he supported gay marriage because separate but equal had not worked the first go-round. He's in my heart. Climate change, I don't know. Retribution, God's retribution as determined by the people who would levy that charge, that I know something about. You know, and I don't find that to be a ridiculous question because, you know, I'm a card-carrying member of the hip-swinging Disciples of Satan Club, and we have been blamed for AIDS, 9/11, Katrina,
Military deaths?
military deaths,
We
probably
are
the fall of the stock market, you know, I don't know.
you're the only
Everything.
reason. You're the only reason Westboro Baptist Church exists.
Exactly. So, you know, so to ask if we're the cause of it is a legitimate question. I'm surprised Pat Robertson hasn't already weighed in and said we are. But, you know, but the problem with that is Texas has been doing all it can. You know, you can't hardly get an abortion in Texas, and God knows when, regardless of what the Supreme Court decides, there's no telling when you'll ever be able to get gay married in Texas. You know, if God were going to do retribution, he ought to be turning his eyes on California, where they're doing all that craziness. Well, they've got that drought.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he is retributing on California and we're not noticing. So, anyway, but what I do know about when God does those retribution things, he always warns somebody. You know, Noah, he warned, and Noah built the ark, which that story seems a lot less fantastic now than it did to me 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Or this morning.
Or even this morning, because the living room, by the way, is flooded. So there's that. So he warns when he was going to do Sodom and Gomorrah. He got with the most righteous man, you know, in Sodom, who was Lot. And Lot struck a deal with him and said, you know, if I can find 50 righteous men, will you hold your hand back from Sodom? And God said, okay. And then Lot was like, well, how about 40? And God said, okay. And Lot said, well, maybe 30. I mean, Lot was the greatest negotiator of all time. He negotiated God back from 50 to 10. The problem was he couldn't even find 10. So Sodom had to go. So, and I'm sure there were a whole lot of hip-swinging disciples of Satan all up in there. But, so if that is the case, and God is playing according to his own godly game plan, he had to let somebody know if this were retribution. And that would be the most righteous man in Texas. And that would be Reverend Jeffers down at First Baptist Church, Dallas, wouldn't it? That'd be who he'd get on the horn with, maybe text and say when's a good time to call. I don't know how all that works. God hasn't called or texted me in an awfully long time. But Jeffers, apparently, if that is the case, then, because the rains came, so either Jeffers couldn't find 10 righteous men in the whole state of Texas, which is a scary thought, or Jeffers is a really bad negotiator, or, heaven forbid, God didn't call Jeffers.
Ooh.
So, based on that analysis of historical precedent and God's retribution in terms of weather-related and crazy stuff, I'm just not thinking it's retribution. I don't think so.
So do you think it's climate change?
Climate change? Oh, I don't know. I'm not a scientist.